Hello and welcome back to my channel, the Crafty Bee. Today we'll be learning how to cut and sew elastic pencil skirts using hip allocation method and a kimono top to match. If you are interested to know how to make this stylish set, then let's get right into the video. So we'll be making use of these two beautiful fabrics, and this is a two lace, and the two lace is going to be the kimono top, and this other fabric, which is a little bit stretched, not too stretchy, is going to be for the skirts, and it's also going to be the stripe that I'll cut to design the kimono. And these are the basic tools that I'm using for this tutorial: and an elastic, a measuring tape, the different type of rulers and scissors, and then the chalk. So without wasting much of your time, please let's get right into the video. So I have folded the front and the back of the skirt together. We are going to use hip allocation method. So this is the center front and this is the center back. So I added some inches at the back. I added 3.5 inches. You'll see what I'll be using it for. So now let's start with the front. So we are going to be needing some measurements for this skirt. The hip circumference I'm using is 52 inches. The waist is 38 inches. And I'm going to be dividing the waist by 4 and the hip by 4. And the length of the skirt is 40 inches plus 1.5 inch sewing allowance. And this skirt is going to have elastic. So I'll be taking 2 inches up for the elastic. One more thing, this skirt is going to have a band with elastic. So we are going to cut the band separate. We are not going to cut it together with the skirt. So to start with, I place my tape on the starting line. This is the starting line on 2 inches. So I take out 2 inches for the height of the band, 2 inches. So waist to the hip, I'm marking 9 inches. And I'm sewing for a plus size. The hip is 52 inches. You can see that the hip is very huge, but the waist is small. So she said she don't want elastic, and there's going to be a slit at the back of the skirt. No zip on the skirt. So as you can see, I placed the tape on 2 inches. I minus 2 inches from the skirt. That's for the height of the band. So to the waist to the hip is 9 inches. I mark 9 inches. And then waist to the knee is 19 inches. And then the waist to the length of the skirt is 40 inches. And then I added 1.5 inch for the hemming allowance. So I'm going to repeat the markings across so that I can get a straight line. As you can see, I've marked out the lines. So now I'm going to impute the horizontal measurement. So starting with the waist is 38 inches divided by 4 is 9.5 inches. There's not going to be a tat on this skirt, and I'm going to add 1 inch for the sewing allowance. Because this fabric is a bit stretchy, I marked the waist measurement exact and added 1 inch for the sewing allowance. So coming to the hip, this is where the mathematics is. So the hip I'm working with is 52 inches divided by 4 is 13 inches. So if the front is 13 inches, that's 52 divided by 4 is 13 inches for the hip. So on this front piece, I'm going to minus 1.5 inch from the 13 inches I cut. So 13 minus 1.5, we are left with 11.5 inches. Hope you understand what I'm doing, because we are using hip allocation method for this skirt because the client I'm sewing for, she have a big back. So I just have to use hip allocation for this skirt. So on the waist, I divide it by 4. I mark 9.5 inches on the waist. On the hip line, this is where the calculation comes. On the front piece, 52 inches for the hip circumference divided by 4 is 13 inches. So 13 inches, I will minus 1.5 from the front piece. So on the back piece, I'll add the 1.5 inch I minus from the front to the back. So let's impute the measurements. On the hip line, on the front piece, I'll mark 11.5 inches and 1 inch for the sewing allowance. So on the knee line, whatever I got on the hip, I'll minus 1.5 inch to get the knee measurement. But if the person is just a normal size, a small size, or it depends on how curvy the person is. So you can minus 1 inch, 1.5, 2 inches on what you got on the hip. So the hip is 11.5 minus 1.5 inch is 10 inches. So on the knee line, I mark 10 inches plus 1 inch sewing allowance. So coming to the hem line, whatever you got on the knee line, you mark it on the hem line. So the knee line is 10 inches. So I mark 10 inches on the hem line plus 1 inch sewing allowance. So next I'll be connecting the points. But to do that, on the hip line, I'll be coming down by 2 inches. So to get a perfect curve on the hip area. So I'll now connect the lines. So what you have to do is to cross-check your measurements. So on the hem line, you just curve from here, you give it a little curve here. And on the waistline, you'll be coming down by 1/2 inch. Then you connect it with your curve ruler. Why we do this is for the skirt to sit well on the waistline. So I'll be connecting the real measurements so that you can get more understanding of what I'm doing. So our front piece is ready. So the next thing to do is to cut out the front. Then we'll continue to mark the back because I folded the front and the back together. Before I cut out the waist, we'll go ahead and draft the back panel. So the back and the waist, they are going to have the same side. Only the waistline, the back is not going to have 1/2 inch down. The back is going to be straight. So I'll be connecting the lines. So now where the calculation is still the hip line. So because I divided the hip into 4, 52 divided by 4, I got 13 inches. So on the front piece, I minus 1.5 inch from the 13 inches and I got 11 inches. So the 1.5 inches I minus from the front hip line, I'm going to place it here on this side, on the center front of the back piece. So I'm adding 1.5 inch. I took from the front piece, I added it to the back piece. Hope you understand what I'm saying. On the front hip line, I minus 1.5 inch from the 13 inches and I got 11.5 inches. So the 1.5 inches I minus from the front hip line, I replace it on the back hip line. You see, on the front waistline, we came down by 1/2 inch and connect to the side. But on the back waistline, we are not going to come down by 1/2 inch. So this line on the waistline, we are going to connect to meet this 1.5 inch I added to the back piece. So guys, hope you understand. And from the hip line, I will connect it straight to the knee line. I'll connect it like this. So guys, you see, so next I have to mark the slits at the back. I have to add 2 inches for the slits at the back. So I'm marking 2 inches all the way to the hemline. So guys, you see, so the opening for the back, that's the slits for the back. My client don't want very long, so she wants about 18 inches. So I mark 18 inches here. I mark it on the skirt length, not on the sewing allowance. So I mark 18 here. So now I'll cut it the side out. You see the front and the back is the same. The differences is only the center back that we have the butt contour. So I cut the back waistline out. Then I cut off the front waistline. So this helps the waist to sit down properly, to relax properly. So this is it. We have come to the end of our skirt, and the next thing is to sew it, then cut the band for it. So when we want to join it, you join from this end like so up to where the slit ends. So guys, we have come to the end of the cutting of the skirt. So the next thing to cut out is the kimono top for the skirt because it's a set. So I folded down our kimono top, and the length I'm using together with the joining allowance and the hemming allowance is 45.5 inches for both the length and the hemming allowance and then the joining allowance. And as you can see, I have folded the front and the back together. This is the back piece and this is the front piece. This is the center back and this is the center front, and this is the side for both the front and the back, and it's open. This is the right side of the fabric. It's a 2 lace, and this is the wrong side of the fabric. So as you can see, on the front side I left 2 inches extra allowance. This is for the overlapping in front because we are making a kimono robe. So this is it's going to overlap it in front. So I have marked down my bust line, my waistline, and then the hip line. From the shoulder to the bust point is 11 inches, and I added half an inch for joining of the shoulder. From the shoulder to the waist is 17.5 inches. It's 17 inches. I added half an inch for the joining allowance. And then from the shoulder to the hip is 26.5 inches. So we'll start imputing the measurements. So on the back neck, I'm marking 3 inches for the neck width, and then 1.5 inch for the neck depth. This is for the back piece, and I'm connecting it. The shoulder is 18 inches divided by 2 is 9 inches. So I mark 9 inches for the shoulder length. And on this 9 inches, I'll come down half an inch because I'll be joining the half an inch to the top. So if I come down 1 inch, there'll be shortage at the shoulder, at the joining of the shoulder. So I'm coming down half an inch. Then I'll connect it from the neck point. So this is it. So from this shoulder point, I'll be marking half of the across armhole measurement, which is 9 inches, and then half inch for the joining to the shoulder, so 9.5. And I'll connect it with a straight line. So to get the right measurement, whatever you measured on the shoulder, you measure the same thing on the chest line here. So to get a straight line, I'll connect it straight So this line is now our chest line. On the armhole depth, I'll be measuring whatever I have here and divide it by 2. I have 9.5 divided by 2 is 4.75, and from here I'll draw a curve to the armhole. But to do that, I'll be imputing the bust measurement. Because this top is going to be a free top, I'll be adding 3 inches extra allowances. So 2 inches for the ease and then 1 inch for the sewing allowance. So the bust circumference is 44 inches divided by 4 is 11 inches. So I mark 11 inches here plus 2 inches ease and then 1 inch for sewing allowance. So I'm adding 3 extra inches to the bust measurement. So I'll take my curve ruler and create the armhole curve for the back piece. So from this center point, I'll be drawing the armhole line. So this is for the back armhole, and the front armhole I'll be coming in by half an inch, then connect it to the armhole. I'll be connecting it from the shoulder. So next is to divide the waist measurement by 4, and the waist I'm working with is 38 inches divided by 4 is 9.5 inches plus 3 inches sewing allowance and ease allowance. And on the hip line, the hip is 52 inches divided by 4 is 13 inches plus 3 inches sewing and ease allowance. I'll be connecting the points now from the bust to the waist to the hip and then to the hemline straight. Here it's not meant to be pointed, so I blend it. And then from the hip line, you're just going to connect straight down. It's going to go straight down because it's a free kimono top. So next I'll be marking the front neckline, and it's going to be 3 inches for the width and 3.5 inches for the depth. Half inch for sewing allowance for joining on the shoulder. So I mark 3.5 inches and then 3 inches for the width and then 3.5 inches for the depth, and I connect like this. So the next thing to do is to come to the waist and the bust line and find the midpoint here. So from the front neck, I'm going to connect it straight to this point here. So the next thing to do is to cut it out. I'll cut out the back armhole first. Then I trim the front a bit like so. So this is how front is. So as you can see, this is the back piece, and then this is our front piece. I'm going to deepen the front. The line is showing there, the chalk line is showing there, so I'll just deepen the front armhole a bit. So next thing is to measure around the armhole. So I have 13 inches. So I'll use it to cut the sleeves. So I'm going to be folding the sleeve in half and fold it in half again. This is the good side of the sleeve and this is the wrong side. So I'm folding it to the wrong side. So now I've folded it into 4 pieces, 2 for each sleeve. I'll be drawing an imaginary line up, which serves as my starting line on top of the sleeves. And I'm going to take the sleeve length. The sleeve length is 20 inches, but I'm reducing it to 18 inches. So the sleeve is 18 inches plus 2-inch band, which I'm going to use the plain fabric I use for the skirts. I'm going to use it for the band of the sleeve. So 18 inches minus 2 inches is 16 inches. I'm measuring 17 inches for the length of the sleeve, and I'm going to use half inch to join on the shoulder to the body of the top, and then 1/2 inch to join to the band down. So I'm going to cut 17 inches for the length of the sleeve. The next thing to do is to come down 5 inches for our calf height or the biceps. Now I'm going to mark it across. So next, I make sure that from the tip of the folded end here, I make sure that I get my 13 inches, which I'm going to mark down like so. You can use curved ruler. So half of our armhole now is 11 inches I have here. I folded it to 11 because I'm using all for the sleeve. It's going to be a free sleeve, but the around sleeve is going to be 10 inches because it's going to be a wide sleeve. So I got my 13 inches now. So after, I will dip the front armhole a bit on the sleeve. So from here now, just connect it straight down here. Seam allowance, everything is added. And I'll be cutting 2.5 inches band for this sleeve, 1/2 inch to join, and then 2 inches is for the main band. So I'm going to notch the shoulder part. So the next thing to do is to open it and dip in the front armhole. I'm cutting the two together, as I said. I'm now going to dip in the front armhole. I'm dipping the front armhole. So the next thing to do is to cut the band for the sleeve. So I've cut down the band. I cut out 5 inches. When folded in half is 2.5 inches. So we are going to use 1/2 inches to join it to the sleeve. So I've cut 2 pieces for the sleeves. So in order not to make this video long, I will end the video here. So the sewing tutorial is going to be on my next video. So please don't miss out on my next video. If you miss out on my next video, you'll miss out greatly because this kimono top with the skirt is going to be the best. It's going to be elastic skirt and it's going to be the best. So this is for the top, then this is for the skirt. So we'll come to the end of today's video. If you find this tutorial helpful, please don't forget to leave a huge thumbs up and also comment on the comment section. Share my video to your friends and family, and also remember that I love you. I appreciate all of you. See you in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.